Okay, big interview time. We're joined by Brett Smith of WeWentFast.com, and a really fascinating story that I feel like it just came out, but you told me it was 18 months in the making, and it's rare that we ever have real numbers about what motocross and supercross stars ever made, but you and Ricky Carmichael and everyone in his camp dug in to when he switched teams about 20 years ago, and we have real numbers and a fascinating story too.
Yeah, the greatest gamble in motocross is about Ricky Carmichael's shocking switch to Suzuki, which, JT, you were there racing at the time. Everyone remembers Carmichael signs with yellow. They hadn't won a Supercross championship since 1981.
Yeah.
When Ricky was 3 years old. And he said, yep, we're going to go win on this bike.
Yeah, and the fortunes of Honda, meanwhile, Suzuki couldn't have been lower and Honda couldn't have been higher.
Yeah, and it's an incredible story to me, but what interests me is, in this sport, we don't have any of the collaboration between players and teams and any of that. So details are always sketchy, right? We never know who's making what the contracts look like, any of that. So when you set out to get numbers like that and ask hard questions that typically aren't available, was there any pushback? Or was something like, I don't really want to talk about that? Because that's typically the answers you get from these riders is like, yeah. And a lot of contracts, I've been a part of these, you're not allowed to spell the details of a contract. And I don't know if there's like a term of limitations there, but I just was curious how that process worked for you.
Ricky just said, I have nothing to hide. Let's have it all out there. It's been 20 years. I want guys to know what everyone else is making. And I know riders today have said, like Adam Cianciarulo said it on his podcast, why aren't we talking about this?
Yeah.
And their memories of what they made are fuzzy. A guy like Ricky didn't go over all the fine details. He paid people to do that. So if I'd have taken the first interview he gave me and just published those numbers, what were based on his memory, we would have been way off. It wasn't until his inner circle went back and pulled the actual contracts out. We didn't print any of the actual details, but actually the actual pages, we didn't print those, but we talked about the numbers, and he's like, whoa, okay, yeah, I guess that's what I made then.
Okay, so for you, you haven't seen a ton of rider contracts like this, right? So you got to look at the real deal, and one of the biggest contracts that's ever been signed, certainly the biggest at the time, I would imagine. Was there something that you remembered that really stood out, right? You're looking over these documents, you're like, wow, I did not expect to see that. Because I think for most people, they would be shocked at some of the bonuses that are available and just the commitment that Suzuki made at the time.
30 pages long is what a contract like that is in length. And there's a lot of if this, then that. There's a lot of scenarios. If you do this, then we'll pay you that. Right. If you don't do this, then we won't do that. And what was unique about Ricky's contract with Suzuki is that it was guaranteed money. And there was no injury clause.
Right. It wasn't, it wasn't bonus heavy. The not so secret in the industry is that riders get a salary, but the accelerators of winning titles, winning races, or what a title or race win one year can accelerate your salary for the next year. Suzuki just said, we're just pushing all the chips in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Honda came with an offer, and Ricky's like, what? His agent was like, I'm going to go get you a guaranteed deal. His agent at the time was not a moto guy. He didn't come to the races. You probably never met the man.
I did not.
He never came to the races at all. He was a golf agent. And he looked at Ricky's deals, and he goes, you know what? You're the greatest.
Yeah.
You're the best right now at what you do. Why aren't you being paid like the best? This is what I believe. And so he went after that, and Honda's like, whoa, we pay for potential. We don't pay guaranteed deals.
We said we're going to have real numbers. So you have some real numbers of how this all totaled out, right?
Absolutely. Suzuki offered him $4.7 million guaranteed.
For a
The agent went after $5 million. He said, can we get $5 million a year, 2-year deal? So that stroke of a pen, you're a deca-millionaire.
Whew. So 4.7 per year.
4.7 per year, accelerator clauses.
Oh, it still had some, not the traditional level of bonuses, but it still had some.
Yeah, they offered, so to get him up to $5 million, like if you win the championships, we'll give you $300,000 apiece, which is championship bonuses today. And even then, for that level of an athlete, were way more.
Yes.
But Suzuki wanted to give him incentive to get over that $5 million a year mark.
I see.
So he did. Obviously, in hindsight, we know that he won 4 championships with them. His base salary went up in 2006.
So we're up to $11 million in the end, right?
But you know what? He still would have made more money with Honda.
With their bonuses, had he won like he did.
Yep.
Incredible.
But that's not guaranteed, right? You can't count your chickens before they're hatched. That was fun for Ricky. Actually admitted on the phone when we were talking. He's like, you know what? I've never admitted this to anyone, but I was doing math back then when I had these 2 offers. And he's like, you don't race for money, but you're still like, I'm recovering from my knee injury. I got 2 offers, and yeah, okay, we're going to do some math here. I figured out what I needed from Honda, and I asked them for $300,000 more. That was my line, and they wouldn't meet me there.
Well, I think about other sports like the NFL, right? It's not so different. A lot of injuries in our sport, a lot of injuries in the NFL, and that's why there's so much pushback on guaranteed deals, right? And it's very, very rare. I think about like Deshaun Watson. The Cleveland Browns gave him $230 million guaranteed, and every other team was like, we would never do that. And I see a lot of comparisons there where Suzuki's like, that's our guy. We're going to get him. We believe in him. Here's all the money, right? It's a wild story. I don't know that it's ever happened again in our sport.
Yeah, but it changed the fortune of those two teams. Honda did not win a title until this year, and we're talking about 04 to 05 until now winning a 450 title. And Suzuki then had a run even after RC with Reed and Dungey, James Stewart, you name it. So it worked. The gamble paid off. Where can people read it again? And they can listen to your pod too, right?
WeWentFast.com. It's an 11-part series on there. There's a whole hub, pagination, so you don't have to read the whole thing all at once. You won't lose your place. So read a couple parts, come back to it, and there it is. And podcasts, search We Went Fast in your podcast player. Cool. Episodes 24 and 25.
Real numbers, like we said, real numbers. Thanks, Brett. All right, we're headed to Ironman Raceway. Come join us. And if you can't join us in person, we'll have the coverage, of course, all the motos on Peacock or the Super Motocross Video Pass if you're outside the United States. Race Day Live presented by Motorsport.com at 10 a.m. Eastern on Saturday. And then we'll go racing starting at 1 o'clock, and we'll stay on the air straight through.
Hi, folks. Lee Diffie from NBC Sports here. If you truly enjoyed what you just watched, you can get more news, interviews, and highlights by subscribing to the Motorsports on NBC YouTube page. You can get it all, so go for it.